I'm going to be brutally honest with you right now. I've been quietly building my survival food stockpile for the past 7 years, and there are 10 specific items I never mention in prepping groups or online communities. While everyone else is obsessing over the same freeze-dried meals and survival buckets, I've been strategically acquiring foods that sit completely ignored on store shelves. And here's what's crazy. During the last 4 major supply chain crises in my region, every single one of these 10 items remained fully available while the typical prepper foods were completely wiped out. Number 7 is literally available at your local grocery store right now for under $3, and it provides better long-term nutrition than $90 emergency food kits. And when I reveal number 4, you're going to be genuinely upset that nobody told you about this earlier. It's been sustaining populations for thousands of years, costs almost nothing, and will literally outlast your descendants. Before I continue, go ahead and subscribe right now, because what I'm sharing today is information that mainstream prepping channels deliberately avoid. The uncomfortable truth about the prepping community is that we all consume the same content, buy from the same suppliers, and stockpile identical products. But when actual emergencies hit, those exact items vanish from stores within the first few hours. I witnessed this firsthand during the panic of early 2020. Rice disappeared before lunch, canned vegetables were gone by mid-afternoon, but every single food I'm about to share with you stayed on shelves for days, in some cases weeks longer. Let's jump right in. Look, grocery prices are rising faster than most people can keep up with. I've done the math for you. I put together a free emergency pantry blueprint that lists the exact 15 items you can get at Aldi, Walmart, or Costco today to feed your family for 2 weeks. It's 28,000 calories for less than the cost of a takeout pizza. You can grab that shopping list for free at the link in the description so you can stop worrying and start prepping. Food number 1 is duck fat. Yeah, I know that sounds absolutely wild to start with. Duck fat. Most people have never even considered this, and that's exactly why it's perfect. Duck fat is pure concentrated energy. We're talking about 120 calories per tablespoon. When you're in a survival situation and your body is burning through calories faster than normal due to stress and physical demands, high-calorie fats become absolutely critical. But here's what makes duck fat exceptional for preppers. It's shelf-stable when stored properly. I'm not talking about a few months, I mean years. I have jars of duck fat in my stockpile that are 3 years old, and they're still perfectly good. Unlike vegetable oils that go rancid quickly, animal fats have remarkable longevity when kept in a cool, dark place. Here's my storage approach. You can buy duck fat in jars from specialty food stores or online. I transfer mine into smaller glass jars with tight-fitting lids and store them in my coolest storage area. They take up minimal space, and one jar goes a long way in cooking. Think about this practically. Food number 2 is sitting in the baking aisle right now, and 95% of preppers walk right past it. Cream of tartar. This white powder that most people only use once a year for specific recipes is actually a survival powerhouse. Here's why cream of tartar is absolutely brilliant for your stockpile. It's a natural acidifier that can be used in dozens of ways beyond baking. You can use it to activate baking soda as a leavening agent, which means you can make bread rise without yeast. In a long-term emergency where commercial yeast is unavailable, this becomes incredibly valuable. But the real genius is shelf life. Cream of tartar lasts indefinitely when stored in a sealed container. I have containers that are 5 years old with zero degradation in quality. Compare that to yeast, which loses potency within months even when refrigerated. I discovered the full potential of cream of tartar 2 years ago during an extended power outage. I was making biscuits using my camp stove, and I realized I could replace buttermilk by mixing regular milk with cream of tartar. Suddenly, I could make fluffy biscuits, pancakes, and quick breads without any refrigerated ingredients. The food science is simple but powerful. Mix half a teaspoon of cream of tartar with half a teaspoon of baking soda, and you've created baking powder. That's a chemical leavening agent you can make on demand. Here's the storage strategy. Buy cream of tartar in bulk from restaurant supply stores or online. A 1-pound container costs about $15 and will last for years of regular baking. Transfer it into an airtight container, keep it dry, and it literally never goes bad. I keep 3 pounds in my stockpile. Food number 3 is going to sound ridiculous until you hear the full explanation. Gelatin powder. Not the flavored Jell-O mix. I'm talking about unflavored gelatin powder. This is one of the most overlooked survival foods, and it's a massive mistake that preppers are making. Here's what makes unflavored gelatin crucial. It's pure protein, about 6 grams per tablespoon. When you're living off stored foods and your protein sources are limited, having supplemental protein that requires no refrigeration is huge. But gelatin is not just any protein. It contains specific amino acids that support joint health, gut lining, and skin integrity. In a high-stress survival situation where people are doing unfamiliar physical labor, joint support becomes critical. I learned about this from a guy who lived through the siege of Sarajevo. He told me that one of the biggest problems people faced was deteriorating health from limited diet variety. Small nutritional gaps would compound over weeks and months into serious problems. Gelatin helps fill those gaps. The shelf life is exceptional. Stored in a sealed container in a dry place, gelatin powder lasts 3 to 5 years easily. I've had containers for 4 years that are still perfectly good. Cost-wise, we're talking about $12 for a pound, which provides dozens of servings. Food number 4 is hidden in the international aisle, and I bet 90% of preppers have never even looked at it. Dried chickpeas. But here's the key. You need to buy them in bulk from Middle Eastern or Indian grocery stores, not the small bags from regular supermarkets. Here's why this is absolutely critical. Dried chickpeas last 20 to 30 years when stored properly. I'm talking about maintaining full nutritional value, not just technically being safe to eat. Find me another protein source with that kind of longevity that costs under $2 per pound. The versatility is off the charts. You can cook them whole as a protein-rich side dish. You can mash them into hummus if you have tahini and lemon. You can roast them for crunchy snacks. You can grind them into chickpea flour for flatbreads and batters. You can even sprout them for fresh greens. I ran a real-world test last winter. I did a 45-day challenge where I only ate from my stockpile. Dried chickpeas became a staple. I made chickpea curry, roasted chickpeas for snacking, chickpea flour pancakes, and even added them whole to soups for texture and protein. My family never complained once because the variety kept things interesting. From a nutritional standpoint, chickpeas are incredible. We're talking about 15 grams of protein per cup, loaded with fiber, iron, and folate. When you're eating a limited diet during an emergency, this kind of nutritional density is absolutely essential. Storage is straightforward but important. Get food-grade buckets with airtight lids. Add dried chickpeas. Throw in oxygen absorbers, seal it up tight, and store in a cool, dry location. Those chickpeas will be waiting for your children's children if necessary. I keep 75 pounds in my deep storage. It cost me about $120 total. That's thousands of servings of high-quality protein for less than the cost of a few weeks of groceries. Food number 5 seems so obvious that most preppers completely overlook the strategy behind it. Vinegar, but not just any vinegar. You need multiple types with different purposes. Most preppers buy 1 gallon of white vinegar and think they're done. That's a critical mistake that will hurt you in a prolonged situation. There's white vinegar for cleaning and preserving. There's apple cider vinegar for cooking and health. There's balsamic for flavor. Each serves different purposes, and having variety matters more than people realize. Let me share something that changed my thinking. I talked to a woman who grew up in rural Appalachia during the Depression. She told me her family survived on very basic food, but her grandmother always had different vinegars. She used them to pickle vegetables, preserve eggs, make salad dressings from scratch, and even as folk remedies for various ailments. Here's what makes vinegar essential for survival. It lasts indefinitely. I mean truly forever. I have vinegar in my stockpile that's 6 years old, and it's identical to the day I bought it. The acidity prevents any spoilage. But here's the genius part. Vinegar is a preservative. If you have fresh vegetables from a garden or foraging, you can pickle them with vinegar and extend their life by months. In a long-term situation, this ability to preserve fresh food is absolutely critical. I keep 30 gallons total across different types. 10 gallons of white vinegar for cleaning and basic preservation. 10 gallons of apple cider vinegar for cooking and health uses. 5 gallons of red wine vinegar for flavor. 5 gallons of rice vinegar for Asian-style dishes. The total cost was about $90, and this is a lifetime supply for most purposes. Here's my storage method. Vinegar comes in bottles that are already ideal for long-term storage. I keep them in a cool, dark cabinet. No special preparation needed. They'll outlast almost everything else in my stockpile. And think about the practical applications. You can use vinegar to clean without toxic chemicals. You can preserve food. You can make marinades that tenderize tough meat. You can add it to water to make it safer if you're worried about bacteria. You can even use it for basic first aid as an antiseptic. Here's the psychological angle. Vinegar allows you to make condiments and dressings that make bland food palatable. In a crisis, when you're eating the same basic ingredients every day, being able to make different sauces and pickles keeps morale high. During shortages, I've noticed something interesting. White vinegar sells out moderately fast because people use it for cleaning. But specialty vinegars like balsamic, red wine vinegar, and rice vinegar sit on shelves for weeks because most people don't consider them essential. That's exactly the kind of item you want in your hidden stockpile. Food number 6 is another one that preppers think they understand, but they're missing the critical detail. Dried mushrooms, but here's what matters. You need variety and you need to buy in bulk. Most preppers either skip mushrooms entirely or buy one small package and think they're covered. That's leaving massive value on the table. There are shiitake mushrooms, porcini mushrooms, wood ear mushrooms, and oyster mushrooms. Each has different flavors, textures, and culinary uses. This variety is psychologically important for long-term survival. Here's what makes dried mushrooms perfect. They're incredibly nutrient-dense. We're talking about high levels of B vitamins, vitamin D, selenium, and potassium. But the real magic is umami. That savory, meaty flavor, that makes food deeply satisfying. In a crisis where meat is scarce or non-existent, dried mushrooms provide that satisfying richness that prevents flavor fatigue. They last 5 to 10 years when stored in airtight containers away from light and moisture. I have bags of dried mushrooms that are 4 years old and still have full flavor and aroma. The rehydration process is simple. Soak them in hot water for 20 minutes and they're ready to use. But here's the pro move. Save that soaking liquid. It's incredibly flavorful and can be used as a base for soups, sauces, and gravies. I discovered the full value of mushrooms during a 2-week camping trip where I was testing my survival foods. I added dried mushrooms to rice, noodles, and soups. Every single meal felt substantial and satisfying despite being mostly vegetarian. My conclusion was clear. Mushrooms are a force multiplier for basic ingredients. I keep about 10 pounds total across different varieties. It costs roughly $130, but that's years of umami flavor for hundreds of meals. Storage is easy. Transfer them from original packaging into mason jars or mylar bags with oxygen absorbers. Keep them in a dark, cool place. They'll maintain quality for years. And here's what most people miss. Dried mushrooms are incredibly space efficient. 1 pound of dried mushrooms rehydrates to about 8 pounds of fresh mushrooms. You're getting massive flavor and nutrition in a tiny package. During the last major shortage, I specifically checked for dried mushrooms. The regular grocery stores were completely sold out of fresh and canned mushrooms. But the Asian markets had full shelves of dried varieties because most Americans don't know how to use them. That's your advantage. Food number 7 is going to make some people laugh, but I'm completely serious about this. Miso paste. This fermented soybean paste that most people only associate with Japanese soup is actually one of the smartest survival foods you can stockpile. Here's why miso paste is genius. It's alive with beneficial bacteria. We're talking about probiotics that support gut health and digestion. In a survival situation where people are eating unfamiliar foods, dealing with stress, and potentially lacking fresh vegetables, gut health becomes critical. But here's the magic. Miso paste lasts for years in the refrigerator. And even without refrigeration, it can last months because the salt and fermentation naturally preserve it. I've had containers of miso paste for 3 years that are still perfectly good. The flavor actually improves with age. Cost-wise, we're looking at about $7 for a container that provides dozens of servings. That's exceptional value for a fermented food with live cultures. Here's the versatility. Obviously, you can make miso soup, which is comforting and nutritious, but you can also use miso as a flavoring agent in sauces, marinades, and dressings. A spoonful of miso mixed into grain dishes, vegetables, or even scrambled eggs adds incredible depth. I tested this extensively. During a month-long stockpile challenge, I use miso paste constantly. Miso glazed vegetables, miso soup with dried seaweed, miso marinade for fish, and even miso spread on bread. Every application worked, and my family loved the variety. From a survival nutrition standpoint, miso provides protein, B vitamins, and essential minerals. But the probiotics are what make it special. Maintaining gut health during stress is crucial for overall immunity and well-being. I keep 8 containers in rotation, 4 in my refrigerator for regular use, 4 in my stockpile. The total cost was about $55, and that's years of flavoring and probiotic support. Storage is simple. Miso paste comes in sealed containers. Keep them cool if possible, but even at room temperature, they'll last months. The high salt content prevents spoilage. And here's the psychological benefit. Miso soup is warm, savory, and deeply comforting. In a stressful situation, having something warm and familiar to drink can calm nerves and improve morale significantly. During the last shortage, I went to 3 Asian grocery stores. Every single one had full shelves of miso paste in multiple varieties. Meanwhile, mainstream grocery stores had 0 soup bases left. That's the exact dynamic you want to exploit. Food number 8 is something most preppers have never even heard of, and that's exactly why it's valuable. Nutritional yeast, not baking yeast, nutritional yeast. This is a deactivated yeast that's been cultured specifically for its nutritional content. Here's what makes nutritional yeast exceptional. It's loaded with B vitamins, including B12, which is nearly impossible to get from plant sources. In a survival situation where meat is limited, B vitamin deficiency becomes a real concern. Nutritional yeast solves this problem completely. But here's what really sells it. Nutritional yeast has a cheesy, nutty flavor. You can use it to make cheese-like sauces without any dairy. You can sprinkle it on popcorn, pasta, vegetables, or rice for added flavor. It makes bland food interesting. I discovered nutritional yeast 3 years ago when I was experimenting with food storage. I bought a container on a whim, tried it on some popcorn, and was immediately hooked. The flavor was incredible, and knowing I was getting B vitamins made it even better. The shelf life is excellent. Stored in an airtight container away from heat and moisture, nutritional yeast lasts 2 to 3 years easily. I've had containers for over 2 years with no degradation. Here's the practical application. In a grid-down scenario where refrigeration is gone and dairy is unavailable, being able to make creamy, cheesy-tasting sauces is huge. You can make mac and cheese sauce, Alfredo sauce, or cheese dip using just nutritional yeast, non-dairy milk, and basic seasonings. I keep 6 pounds in my stockpile, stored in sealed containers with oxygen absorbers. The cost was about $70 total, and that's years of B vitamins and cheese flavor. And here's the psychological component. Cheese is comfort food. Being able to replicate that flavor when real cheese is unavailable keeps people happy and satisfied. I've tested this with my family during camping trips. They legitimately could not believe that the cheese sauce I made had no actual cheese in it. During shortages, nutritional yeast sits completely untouched in health food stores. I've checked specifically. While every other seasoning and flavor enhancer is gone, nutritional yeast remains fully stocked because 95% of people don't know what it is. Food number 9 is old school, but modern preppers have completely forgotten about it. Canned sardines. Not tuna, not salmon, sardines. Small, oily fish packed in cans with incredible nutritional density. Here's why sardines are perfect for survival. They're loaded with omega-3 fatty acids, protein, calcium, and vitamin D. One small can provides over 20 grams of protein and a massive dose of healthy fats that your body needs for brain function and inflammation control. But here's what makes them ideal for preppers. The shelf life is exceptional. Canned sardines last 3 to 5 years easily, and many people report them being good for much longer. Unlike fresh fish that requires refrigeration, canned sardines are completely shelf-stable. The cost is reasonable. You can get quality sardines for about $2 to $3 per can. That's cheaper per gram of protein than almost any other animal source. I personally keep 120 cans in my stockpile. It cost about $250 total, And that's months of high-quality protein and omega-3s for my family. Here's my rotation method. I incorporate sardines into regular meals. Sardines on crackers, sardines in pasta, sardines in salads, or even sardines mashed into sandwich spreads. By eating them regularly, I keep my stock fresh, and my family is already accustomed to the taste. And here's something important. Sardines contain soft bones that are completely edible. This means you're getting calcium in a form that's easily absorbed. In a survival situation where fresh dairy is unavailable, this calcium source becomes valuable. Storage is simple. Keep the cans in a cool, dry place. Rotate through them regularly. The flavor actually improves slightly over time as the oils meld together. And here's a strategic advantage. During shortages, tuna vanishes immediately. It's the first canned fish to go, but sardines stay on shelves longer because many Americans find them intimidating or unfamiliar. That delay gives you time to stock up while everyone else is fighting over tuna. I watched this happen in real time during the last panic. Tuna was gone within hours. Sardines stayed available for days, giving me plenty of time to calmly acquire what I needed. Food number 10 is the foundation that serious long-term preppers understand but rarely discuss publicly. Wheat berries, not flour, not bread, whole wheat berries. These are the actual intact wheat kernels before they're processed into flour. Here's why wheat berries are absolute gold. They last 25 to 30 years when stored properly in sealed buckets with oxygen absorbers. I'm talking about maintaining full nutritional value and the ability to sprout, not just being technically edible. You try finding another staple food with that kind of shelf life that costs under $1 per pound. The versatility is incredible. You can grind them fresh into flour for bread, which tastes infinitely better than store-bought flour. You can cook them whole as a chewy, nutty grain, similar to rice. You can sprout them for fresh greens packed with vitamins. You can even plant them if you need to grow food. I learned about wheat berries from an old-timer who lived through the Depression. He told me his family survived largely on wheat they had stored in barrels. They ground it fresh, made bread daily, and never ran out because they had planned ahead. One 50-pound bag of wheat berries costs about $40. That's over 80,000 calories in storage for less than the cost of dinner for 4. Show me another prep food with that kind of value proposition. Storage is critical, but straightforward. Get food-grade buckets with Gamma Seal lids. Fill them with wheat berries. Add oxygen absorbers, about 2,000 ccs per 5-gallon bucket. Seal tight and store in a cool, dry location. Those wheat berries will be there for your grandchildren. I keep 200 pounds in my deep storage. That's enough to feed my family for 6 months if necessary, and the total investment was about $160. You'll need a grain mill to process them. I use a hand-crank mill that cost about $75. No electricity needed, and it produces fresh flour whenever I want it. Here's the real advantage. Fresh ground flour from wheat berries is nutritionally superior to store-bought flour. The vitamins and oils haven't oxidized yet. You're getting the full nutritional value of the grain, and here's what happened during the last shortage. Flour vanished immediately. Bread vanished. Pasta vanished. But wheat berries sat untouched in bulk bins at health food stores and co-ops. Because most people don't know what they are or how to use them. The people who did know calmly filled their buckets, while everyone else was panicking over empty flour shelves. All right, let's be completely real here. I just handed you 10 foods. that the vast majority of preppers will never figure out because they're too busy following mainstream prepping advice. These items are more affordable, last longer, and will actually be sitting on shelves when panic buying clears out everything else. I have personally field tested every single one of these during power outages, storms, and extended pantry challenges. This is genuine knowledge from actual real-world experience, not theory. If this information was valuable to you, hit that like button so the algorithm knows to share this with more people. Subscribe to this channel because next week I'm exposing the 5 prepping myths that will actually get you killed in a real emergency. You absolutely cannot miss that video. Leave a comment below and tell me which of these 10 foods surprised you the most. And be totally honest with me. How many of these did you already have in your stockpile? I'm willing to bet most of you had maybe 1 or 2 at the absolute most. The fundamental difference between just surviving and actually thriving during a crisis comes down to thinking independently instead of following the crowd. Stop doing what everyone else is doing. Start building a stockpile that's based on real-world logic and genuine strategic thinking.